If you struggle with constantly stiff hips, and you're desperate to shake the stiffness, here's 5 really simple shimmies to help loosen up these puppies. They also don't require you to do any kneeling down. This questionable looking maneuver could easily be mistaken for a feeble attempt to impregnate my countertop. Never underestimate the powers of mobility training. I'm joking. This simple yet spicy maneuver is all about building an essential function, the ability to tuck and untuck your pelvis, also known as a posterior and an anterior tilt if you want to get unnecessarily fancy about it. Next up on our list of jazzy jigs, we've got hip hikes. For this one, you're going to want to stand on one foot. The aim of the game is to hike your hip, funnily enough. We're going to try and bring one side of your pelvis higher than the other, hold for a second, and then drop it down, almost as if you're reaching your knee to the floor. And you're just going to gently bounce between these 2 positions. Obviously, once you've done one side, you go on to the other. This delightfully simple maneuver is an amazing way of getting a little bit of lubrication into the lower back. Also working on a hip's ability to shift laterally and just generally getting a little bit of motion, which we all know by now is lotion. Want to get real saucy about it? You can do it hands-free and work on your balance too. Wow-wee-wah. Next up in our onslaught of hip-based lubrication, we have the hip car, which just stands for controlled articular rotation, basically mean a slow motion circle. I meant it when I said slow-mo. I'm using a chair for moral support and physical. Once I've gone one way, we go back the other way, as if I'm climbing over a gate in reverse. This is like my ultimate hip coordination building maneuver of all time. Don't underestimate its seeming simplicity. This daddy gonna set your hips on fire. And if life's just getting a little bit too much for you at the moment and you can't fathom the idea of standing up any longer, you can just lie down and do the exact same thing, which will challenge your hips in a slightly different way, but equally as deliciously. Next up, you're gonna need to spread them because we're getting into the groin. Turn your feet slightly outwards, keep your knees out, and drop your hips down below until you feel a stretch in your groin. Here's a side-on view you probably didn't need. This groin strengthening piece of art is known as the horse stance, likely for obvious reasons, and is amazing at building the often neglected adductor muscles. You don't have to stay down here for long. We want to build up our ability to spend longer periods of time here. Simply start by lowering yourself down till you feel the stretch, hold for a couple seconds, and come back up. Trying to build up over time until we can at least hold this position for 30 seconds without being in excruciating pain. For our big finale, we have the front foot elevated split squat, where we elevate our front foot and drive our hips forward until we feel a spicy little stretch in our hip flexor. We want to let our heel come off the floor, our hips go as far forward as we possibly can. This feels a little bit tender on your knee, getting into this deep knee bend. Start further back and do the same thing. Hold for some deep breaths while you contemplate your existence before doing the other side, because you're not an absolute maniac. And voila, you're equipped with an arsenal of wiggles to lube up your hips like never before. I hope it helps.